In the NHL, or any other sports league for that matter, generational talents do not come around all too often. Although superstars get drafted every single year to the NHL, only about every 10 years or so does a player come around that can change the course of a franchise. A player that can step in and immediately become one of the best players not only on the team, but in the entire league. In 2005, the Penguins were lucky enough to select Sidney Crosby, the next one. And he jumped straight to the NHL, scored 102 points in his rookie year, 6th in league scoring as an 18-year-old, and helped save the Pittsburgh Penguins franchise almost single-handedly. In 2015, another extremely hyped prospect ended up getting taken by the Edmonton Oilers, Connor McDavid, the only other first overall pick besides Crosby and Alex Ovechkin, with over a point per game in their first NHL season since Eric Lindros in the early 90s. McDavid's now also highly regarded as the best hockey player in the world currently. And now, coming up in the 2023 draft, it looks like we have another generational talent that will put his name alongside Crosby and McDavid. It's the 16-year-old phenom Connor Bedard, who was born just weeks before Sidney Crosby was drafted in 2005. The British Columbia native is in his second season with the Regina Pats of the Western Hockey League, after getting exceptional status to be able to play in the league as just a 15-year-old. Bedard had a great showing in his rookie year in the dub, despite playing only 15 games, and although he had a bit of a slower start to his second season, he really has started to heat up as of late, and currently has 14 points in his last 5 games. Oh, and he also just scored what could be the goal of the year in the CHL, and one of the nicest goals in hockey you'll see all year. There's no doubt Bedard is on his way to becoming a superstar. But is he an even better prospect than Connor McDavid was too? Back when McDavid got his exceptional status as a 15-year-old, he played in the Ontario Hockey League, still a part of the CHL, but not the exact same league that Bedard plays in right now. McDavid played for the Erie Otters and had a respectable first season, putting up 66 points in 63 games for a 1.05 point per game average. Last year, when Bedard played his 15-year-old season for Regina, he lit it up even more, with 28 points in his 15 games for a 1.87 points per game. Of course, Bedard had a much smaller sample size compared to McDavid, and if he played as many games as McDavid did, his points per game likely would have went down a little bit. I still do think that with how he came out of the gates, he would have had a much higher points per game than McDavid's 1.05. For McDavid, his 16-year-old season really helped get the hype going for just how good he could be, and his 99 points in 56 games proved it. Those totals were good enough for a 1.77 point per game average, and he would finish 4th in league scoring despite playing 10 fewer games than the rest of the top guys. Like I mentioned earlier, Bedard didn't have as hot of a start to his 16-year-old season as many people may have thought and hoped for prior to the year. But after a great performance in his 2 World Junior games, including a record-breaking 4-goal game, he has been on a tear, and now has 29 goals, 25 assists for 54 points in 36 games so far this season, good for a 1.50 point per game. If he can continue the run that he's on, he could potentially catch up or at least get close to that 1.77 point per game mark that McDavid had in his 16-year-old season. In McDavid's draft year, his 17-year-old season, he would truly be must-see TV for hockey fans, and ended up having 120 points in 47 games for a ridiculous Crosby-like 2.55 point per game. It is very possible, in my opinion, for Bedard to get to that level by next year, and although the point totals may seem out of reach, we saw how McDavid continued to get better and better each and every year with his production and skill. You also have to consider that McDavid and Bedard are both very different players. McDavid more of a high-speed, skilled playmaker who can also finish like few others, and Bedard more the pure goal scorer with a lethal shooting ability as well as that extreme hockey IQ and skating prowess. Bedard's goals per game has been much higher in his first 2 junior seasons compared to McDavid's thus far, and his shot is only getting better and better. Another thing is that Bedard seems to be playing on a worse team compared to McDavid's. The Pats are currently in last place in their division through 42 games this season, and are a long shot to make playoffs. While McDavid and the Otters made the playoffs in his second season there, and he also played with multiple other future NHLers like Connor Brown, Andrei Burakovsky, Adam Pelech, and Dylan Strome, and eventually Alex DeBrincat. Whereas Bedard is only playing with a couple other NHL prospects right now, including Riker Evans and Stanislav Svozil. No matter what happens with the team around Bedard, he is going to be a very special player in the NHL very soon, and will almost certainly go number 1 in the 2023 NHL entry draft. He will also very likely be a game changer as soon as he gets to the league, just like Connor McDavid and Sidney Crosby were. Bedard may have one of the best shots we've ever seen from a 15-16-year-old, and it can only get better over the next couple years. The talent that this kid has makes him so fun to watch, and whatever team ends up getting him will be extremely fortunate. So, do I think Bedard is a better prospect than McDavid was at that age? I think at this point, I would have to say no, but it is very close. And depending on how his season finishes and what he can continue to bring next year in his draft year, he has time to change my mind. Bedard is definitely looking like the better goal scorer, while McDavid was the more productive player to this point. Make sure to let me know what you think down in the comments and whether or not you think Bedard is or will be a better prospect than McDavid. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one.